Okay, so can you tell me more about this new concept plane that you've released at Farmer Air Show? What's it all about?
Well, at first it's an engineer's dream, because on one side we commissioned that survey with the YouGov and to try to understand what the young people think will 2050 look like. So they all came back saying, well, we will fly, but we will fly more, and we want to have a concept at that time which is much more efficient but also much more environment friendly. So this gives us a kind of footprint of, what should a concept plane look like. On the other side, we looked at the available technologies and the one we believe will be available by 2050. So we put that all together in the concept plane, which is just a reflection, a kind of dream of what we could do by assembling various technologies for that purpose.
Okay, and how many sort of engineers had you got working on? Who did you go to in Airbus?
Well, I think it's more we had a few engineers across Hamburg with the cabin, Filton with the wing, and Toulouse and Retafe, and just contribute and dream and put that together. It's really a concept. It's rather it's not a kind of future project. It's more a dream type of but dream but realistic in terms of technologies.
It's plausible then.
So it is plausible. Probably most of the technologies will make their way one way or another in the plane or in the planes to come, even if they don't come together in the same manner as the concept plane.
Can you talk us through some of the exciting features you've got on the aircraft, like the engines and the wings and what?
Right. Well, I would say first of all, it's a plane which is as far as possible with a sleek fuselage and a very embedded wing and fuselage joint in order to improve the aerodynamics. The wing itself very slim. You can see some sort of sharklets at the end, and by the way, we will introduce them already on the 320. We will most probably go towards laminar-flow, which means much more efficient in terms of drag, and also we are going to use as far as possible the various surfaces on the wing in order to adapt the configuration of the wing to different stages of the flight. And for instance, we're already starting to use that type of approach with the 350. We are going to use in cruise the spoilers in order to improve the shape of the wing.
Okay.
Then afterwards the cabin itself. So cabin, we all tend to grow a bit wider but also taller. So with the new materials we have available, we're going to go towards a soda bottle, double bubble type of approach in order to give more room for the passenger. Cabin itself, we are working hard to find materials, kind of biomaterials that could be self-healing, self-cleaning. We introduced already the mood lighting, but our vision is that by then we will have much more adaptable type of seats in order to go around your body, so that really flight remains or is an enjoyable experience. We have also to take care about all the elderly people to make the journey as easy as possible, starting in fact from the doorstep down to the aircraft. So it's a lot about IT technologies based on what you can see today on the iPhone, so that you can actually manage each person individually in the best possible way. And of course in the cabin we're talking about connectivity, because the generation of today, Twitter, Facebook, we don't know what will be by 2050, but obviously that type of permanently connected approach will have to be reflected into the cabin we design.
Okay, and is there a sort of like how efficient would that be compared to today's airline? Is there kind of like a ballpark figure you had in mind? Or?
Overall, I would say although we only contribute 2% of the global CO2 of the world, we want to work actively on it, and already since in fact 40 years we reduced by 70% the fuel burn, we reduced the noise, and we in fact at the end of the day reduce also the emissions by almost 70%. I think the stretch goal we have in even earlier, around 2030, would be to cut these emissions by half, really half them. So it's about actually much more aerodynamic aircraft and efficiency of the engine to aircraft integration. For instance, on this concept plane, we embedded the engines in the fuselage at the end, and also we used a kind of U-shape tail, which is much more efficient than the current one, in order to shield the noise of the engines and reduce the noise inside. Of course, we're working hard with the engine manufacturers, because a lot of what comes out depends on what they are able to do and what ideas they can have, open rotors. But I would say in terms of ballpark, we really would like at minimum to half the current standard by 2050.
Okay. And will any of these features, do you think, make it onto the next generation single aisle?
Well, it depends when the next generation single aisle will take place. First question, of course, would be what type of engines we get. But on the cabin, I believe yes. On the cabin, there will be a lot in there. On the fuselage and the shapes, most probably, because with the current materials, we do have shapes that are easier to do than we had in the old times with the classical circular fuselage concept. Sharklets are already introduced in the single aisle family. Laminar-flow, most probably, could come into the picture by then, and of course making the best use of all the fly-by-wire technology in order to really optimize the way we use all our surface controls in order to reduce the drag.
Okay. Final question then. How important is it to sort of stimulate interest with these kind of concepts? Who's it really sort of aimed at?
I think the idea is to stimulate, I would say, the engineers inside an Airbus, because they're very good in terms of imagination, and it's true that we tend to be much more focused on the current programs, but you need to think ahead and think about the future. But overall, that's why we're also launching Fly Your Ideas with students around the world. We want to stimulate the youth, the brilliant engineers, non-engineers, I would say the population of tomorrow that will design airplanes, but most probably also fly on these airplanes, in order to really focus on aviation. Aviation is still an area where you can dream, you can develop new concepts, and it's really good, even though we are only 2% of the overall CO2, to get the attention and the focus on that, really to get some beautiful aircraft coming out in the next 30 or 40 years.
Excellent. Thank you very much.